In a major reshuffle in military leadership, President Barrow has fired his Chief of Defense Staff and replaced him with the Deputy CDS. Oppositions in Tunisia have rejected the African Free Trade Bill in Parliament. In what appears to be bad news for athletes in Nigeria, the country is being named among countries with highest risk of doping. This and more coming on The World Today. Hello, it is 1700 GMT here in our studios in Banjul. You are watching The World Today Bulletin on Africa TV, and I am Amadou Kante, and now the news in detail. In the news of coronavirus, the Gambia's Minister of Health is busy on screening activities in all entry points than employing the option of border closure. Ahead of the weekend border reopening between Senegal and the Gambia this Sunday for the commercial flow of goods and services, travelers from Senegal, where 4 cases of the disease is confirmed, will be subjected to screening at the entry point. In this report, Communication Officer of the Health Ministry explained why the border closure is not an option for now.
Corona becomes real pandemic. WHO. Confirmation of 4 cases of coronavirus in neighboring Senegal has since activated public concerns on the level of preparation on the side of the Smiling Coast. This case is a subset of over 100,000 recorded cases within 2 months, a situation that the World Health Organization WHO find worrying. Communication Minister for the Ministry of Health told iAfrica that the Ebola quarantine centers in 2012 in various health facilities are being reactivated to take care of possible cases of coronavirus.
At the borders, we have isolation centers there, so that if there is any suspected cases, those people will be, taken to that place, to be taken care of, and all what is necessary to be done. At the hospital level also, we have isolation room. If you go to Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital in Banjul, the main referral hospital, there is an isolation room. You go to Serekunda, Kanifing General Hospital, there is an isolation room. So all these hospitals, there are isolation rooms identified. These things we started during the time of the Ebola.
Transport authorities in Senegal and Gambia struck a deal to resume the free movement of commercial goods and services by the end of this week, after about 1 month of dispute between the two sides. But Mr. Fall assured that the medical check in place at all entry points are enough to prevent the closure of border between Senegal and Gambia as a result of the COVID-19 epidemic.
The ministry is leaving no stone unturned. All what is necessary at the border end, we are not closing the borders, but there are officers who are there, and anybody, our officers, public health officers at the borders are also closely working with the security. They are well trained, and people also that they can easily handle people who are coming into the country. Fine, as I said earlier on, Senegal have this thing, but despite all that, we are not complacent at any level. So what we can do at this moment is to sensitize our people, and that's what we are doing. We are going to the radio stations, we are going to the television stations, we are using all means of communication to make sure that Gambians have the right information, and our means of transmission for this information is through the local languages, even at community level.
Mahmoud Fall said that health workers have been provided with protective mechanisms, although the public is limited to application of personal hygiene.
Face masks globally, everybody needs it now, you understand. So, but now, what the donations that we have been giving, like WHO, they are using it at the hospitals level, you understand. So, as I'm speaking, I cannot say yes or no whether they are giving that to the public, but at the hospital level, I know they will be well equipped with all these donations that we will be giving on personal protective gear equipment, because this personal protective equipment includes so many things. You know, so many things. Just like what the WHO is giving us. Today the Chinese is giving us, I don't know actually, because that one is going now at Kotu. So I don't know actually what they are giving us. But all what they are giving us, we will use it judiciously so that the population of this country will be safe.
Meanwhile, the world epicenter of the coronavirus, China, on Tuesday dispensed materialistic support to the Gambia's health sector in the effort to prevent the spread of the disease into the West African states. Of all the cases reported globally so far, 93% are from just 4 countries, with China accounting for 80,000 cases. It's certainly troubling that so many people and countries have been affected so quickly, says WHO's Director General at the media briefing on Monday. Now that the virus have a foothold in so many countries, Dr. Teros Alhanum Generosi said the threat of the pandemic has become very real. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Aissatou Tamba.
Gambian health authorities on alert against the spreading coronavirus. Now, the second edition of the Presidential Council of the Gambia and Senegal will kick off tomorrow in the Senegalese capital, Dakar. President Barrow left Banjul on Wednesday to take part in the Senegambian convergence intended to cement bilateral ties of the West African neighbors. Ministers and other stakeholders paved the way for the meeting between President Charles and Barrow with a review of the progress in the first edition in 2018. Let's have more details of that in this report.
President Adama Barrow joined his Senegalese counterpart President Macky Sall in Dakar for the second edition of the Presidential Council meeting between the two countries. Since President Barrow became president in 2017, the two heads of states agreed to heighten the relationship and cooperation of the two countries and develop a strategic partnership for the interests of the nations. The first edition of the Presidential Council meeting was held in Banjul in 2018, following President Barrow's visit to Dakar in 2017, during which several agreements were made to improve close ties and cooperation in different sectors of developmental program of the two states. The second meeting of the Senegambian leaders was preceded by a meeting of experts and ministers from both sides in a view of the progress made on the outcome of the first meeting in Banjul. Permanent Secretary at the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Suleiman Aliunjai, said the meeting tomorrow will focus on areas that would improve the quality of relations of the two West African states.
This is the second edition of the Presidential Council meeting. The first edition was convened in Banjul in 2018. You will remember that when the new government under the leadership of President Adama Barrow came into being, he had an agreement with His Excellency President Macky Sall of Senegal to heighten the level of bilateral cooperation between the two countries. And one of the principal ways that the two heads of state agreed to do that was to establish a Presidential Council meeting, which is higher than the Joint Commission, which is the meeting of experts between the two countries.
His Senegalese counterpart forfeited the value of the convergence as substance for greater cooperation among a people who shared every aspect of life in common.
So the first edition, as said by my brother, the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Gambia, the first edition was held in Banjul in 2018, and this is the second edition now in Dakar 2 years after. What we will do during this second edition is to review the agreements that have been agreed upon in Banjul. How far have we gone in the implementation, and now to open new avenues of cooperation, of course. So today is the experts meeting that will prepare the meeting of ministers tomorrow, and then we'll have the presidential meeting the day after tomorrow.
The draft reports and roadmap for the various agreements discussed during the experts and ministerials meeting would be presented to Mr. Barrow and Sall for consideration during the meeting. Divided by colonial borders, the two people demonstrated the desire to erase the making of the colonial invader by the creation of the Senegambia Federation few decades after independence. The formation of the Presidential Council meeting is anticipated to further the ideals of the oneness that define Senegalese and Gambians in terms of language, culture, or nativity. Reporting for Africa News, I am Amadou Kante.
And from that report there, we will now next head to Tunisia, where of course the Tunisian opposition in parliament have rejected the African Continental Free Bill that the government signed on March 2019 in Rwanda. The parliament was expected to adopt the agreement in order to complete the accession procedure. But the opposition argued that the passage of the bill is the responsibility of the ruling party. And for more details of that, we go with this report.
The African Free Trade Area AfCFTA has been operational since May 2019. The Tunisian government signed the agreement on March 21, 2018 in Kigali, Rwanda. The parliament was expected to adopt this agreement in order to complete the accession procedures. However, the opposition rejected the bill.
Voting in favor of the bill is the responsibility of the ruling party and not the opposition. The MPs who back the government were absent from the plenary, so they are responsible for the rejection of the AfCFTA project.
The ruling blocs at Parliament say the objectives of the agreement include strengthening the competitiveness of enterprises, reducing export linkages of major commodities, and consolidating economic and social transition.
Africa is the favorite destination of the world in terms of investment and trade. This rejection is a crime committed against the Tunisian people, Tunisian exporters, and companies, as well as against all those who worked for the implementation of this convention.
Tunisian professionals say the African Free Trade Area is the largest in the world, representing 1.2 billion people and trading more than $300 billion. It will help boost trade between African countries from 16 to 33%.
We've worked hard with many partners to present the bill and increase Tunisia's presence in Africa. This convention will facilitate the access of our companies to African markets. It seeks to establish an integral framework allowing a fruitful trade relations between the African Union member states.
The Tunisia Africa Business Council urged MPs to find a legal solution so as to resubmit the bill related to the founding convention of the African Continental Free Trade Area.
Economists say the objective of the AfCFTA is to increase the competitiveness of Tunisian products on African markets. It also stipulates the dismantling of non-customs barriers. The agreement will have a positive impact on the export of Tunisian services.
And from that report there in Tunisia, we come back home. Now, individual claiming authority from the Minister of Local Government and Land have threatened to destroy the vegetable garden belonging to women in Old Joswang, even though it is highly cultivated. The Award Development Committee identified one of the claimants of the land as a business tycoon working closely with the government of President Barrow. Women at the garden described the situation as an attack on their means of living, a move the Kanifing municipality could not explain. Let's have more details of that in this report.
Women horticulturists at New Joswan have been confronted with a dilemma after a man claimed ownership of the land on which they grow their vegetables. According to the women, different men who they couldn't identify threatened to bulldoze all the vegetable in the garden for construction purposes. Since then, the women have been worried and frustrated about their very green vegetable.
Kadu yoy non sa moromi dom du muna taxaw dila wax lo xamne kadu bo xamne dina la metti lo xamne du ko wax wajuram mu ñew tim la dila wax jël grade bi indi mu ne defay grade jiwi yep nga lol du muna def.
After the intervention of the Area Ward Development Committee together with the Kanifing Municipal Authority, the group claiming ownership of the lands are identified as close associates with the government. According to the Josian Ward Authority, the Minister of Local Government and Lands have admitted of giving authority of the claimants, although the minister has reportedly asked for a halt on the planned construction until the matter is resolved. Despite the threats, the women gardeners vow to continue work on their garden without fear and that they are not prepared to negotiate their rights with anyone over ownership of the garden.
Ndol ni te discuss no wala. Ndol be jang be men do ku kanyam fo jannim be faala. Ndol ni ngi to do sito ko eto ñu tan tol jono la wala. Eten jono la.
So al man pare ka jambula ba defa.
Ani. Ndabu na lola. Andu ni jam fense tan tol la sato be teyla. Na sato be teyla.
na sata obetelal ninja pensita ntola sata obetelal wala tina manjebula.
Habib ML Cisse, Councillor Fun I Africa, to express disappointment in the manner in which the lands are allegedly allocated to others different from the women without the knowledge of his office. The ward committee, he said, has begun engagement with the local government ministry with a view to each out a deal for lasting peace. Reporting for Africa News, I am Amadou Kante.
And yes, from that report there on that, of course, matters of the women complaining about an attack on their gardens. We will now take a break and come back shortly with the rest of the stories. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You are watching The World Today on iAfrica TV, and now to the rest of the stories. President Adama Barrow and Commander-in-Chief of the Gambia Armed Forces has relieved Lieutenant General Masane Nkinte of his duties as the Chief of Defense Staff of the Gambia Armed Forces. The firing of the CDS took effect since 5th of March, according to a media release from the Office of the President on Wednesday. No reasons was advanced, but the President said he acted according to powers vested in him under Section 190 of the 1997 Constitution. Meanwhile, the President has appointed Deputy Chief of Defense Staff, Major General Yakuba Drame, to take over from General Kinte. And from that development, we will now head out to Ethiopia, where the coronavirus outbreak is slowing down the construction of the Grand Ethiopian Resonance Dam, as some materials are imported from China. The Resonance Dam is expected to start filling the giant reservoir to generate power as the largest hydroelectric dam in Africa. Let's have more of that in this report.
The Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam is now 71% complete and counting. Work is being done 24/7 with no interruptions. Several global construction firms, including those from China, are working on the project.
We have increased contractors who are working on the dam's turbine and metal works from 1 to 4. 2 of them are engaged in playing the turbines, and the other 2 are assigned on the metal part of the work. This is done to double the speed of the work on site. These contractors have worldwide operation experience of building mega dams like that of ours. All technical adjustments are done to expedite the process of work to finish the gird as soon as possible.
But the global coronavirus outbreak is affecting the construction of what will be Africa's #1, world's 10th largest hydropower generating dam. The Ministry of Water, Irrigation and Energy says there have been delays in shipment of equipment ordered from China.
Due to the outbreak of the coronavirus, some equipment ordered from China has been delayed. Some are taking weeks and others are taking months for delivery. But we take this as pressure not only on us, but for the entire global economy. And though there are effects, I can say so far there's no significant pressure on the dam due to this.
Egypt has taken issue with Ethiopia's construction of the mega dam. Cairo wants Ethiopia to sign a deal proposed by the United States. It has in the past warned it will use any means necessary to stop Ethiopia from filling its reservoir if the flow downstream is adversely affected. Ethiopia's Deputy Prime Minister sees matters differently.
This generation of Ethiopia has begun this precious and common project with courage. We have walked the truth and now we are here. We would like to tell anyone at this moment that no one will stand on the way of us utilizing our natural resources. We shall preserve to sustain our rights till the end. We shall never ask anyone's permission for this to happen. On the tripartite relationship, however, we will always consider mutual benefits, and listening to one another will be given high value at all times.
China is Africa's biggest partner in infrastructure development. The progress of many projects in the continent will depend on how quickly China's economic hubs recover from the effects of the outbreak. It is clear that for Ethiopia's $4.8 billion dam to be completed, China's full return to production will play a key role.
From Ethiopia, we come back home because for the first time since they were granted bail at the High Court, President Barrow made a public statement about the pressure group 3 years Jotna, saying the group that wanted to unseat him after 3 years are now campaigning for the 2021 presidential elections. Addressing a rally of his National People's Party in Lamin-Koto Central River region, Mr. Barrow confidentially said the only potential candidate for the 2021 presidential election is him. Let's have more of that in this report by Aissatou Tamba.
President Adama Barrow has made his first public statement on the pressure group 3 years Jotna, few weeks after 8 of its top members were granted bail at the High Court in Banjul. Addressing a recent meeting on his National People's Party NPP at Lamin-Koto in Central River region, Mr. Barrow said the group that has been determined to unseat him after 3 years in office is now campaigning for the 2021 general elections. 3 years Jotna group has been organizing protests in the country, asking Mr. Barrow to respect the 3-year mandate agreement he made with the coalition 2016 political leaders and step down for a fresh election. On December 16th last year, the pressure group held a successful protest from Stream Corner in Old Joswang to Denton Bridge in Banjul, where they handed their petition to the government spokesperson for onward transmission to the president. But a second protest in January had a serious confrontation between them and the police intervention unit, in which 8 members, including their leaders, were arrested. 4 journalists were also arrested and 2 radio stations closed in what the government said they were reporting the protest in a way that was inciting violence.
Ako mol wultano ika faye ka for 3 years Jotna.
Mune mo amon ñu jog na ñetti at Jotna.
Bari sa faye ko.
Waye mané ma tontu ko ne.
Nimmen kay ko 3 years Jotna.
Kula ne ñetti at Jotna.
Keba do ko ñeko jabirobe wala say.
Mune amna benen goor gu ko waxone lolu amna tontu legi.
Nimmen ko 3 years Jotna.
Kula ne ñetti at Jotna.
E sa faye 3 years tasna.
Ngale ko 3 years tasna.
According to him, no matter how many candidates contest in the 2021 election, only one president will stand, and that will be President Barrow. The 8 officials of the group are still answering to 3 court cases before the High Court in Banjul. Reporting for iAfrican News, I am Aissatou Tamba.
President Barrow there publicly talking about the famous 3 years Jotna. Now, from that report, finally we head out to Nigeria, as the country has been added to the list of the countries with the highest doping risks following the country's alleged failure to comply with the rules under the Athletic Integrity Unit. The new ranking, which also affects Morocco, brings Nigerian athletes under intense scrutiny. Let's have more details of that in this report.
Countries like Bahrain, Belarus, Ethiopia, Kenya and Ukraine have featured in Category A since 2019. Nigeria and Morocco have just been added to the list. They were included having failed to comply with some of the rules under the Athletics Integrity Unit. This new ranking now brings Nigerian athletes under intense scrutiny.
Well, it simply means that Nigerian athletes will be a focus in major international meets. They will be looking out for Nigerian athletes. They will be looking at performances of Nigerian athletes with a measure of suspicion.
It's going to affect me because it's giving Nigeria a bad record globally. And most times, as an athlete, whenever I go to seek for visa, maybe in whichever country I want to go to, most times, once you say yes, you're from Nigeria, they look at you like maybe someone who is coming to do some doping in their country. So it's really affecting me as a cyclist.
Now the Athletic Federation of Nigeria is strengthening its framework and closely monitoring athletes to get the nation off the watch list.
We must accept the fact that we're falling short of such rule, but nevertheless, the Federation is working and has already put in place a committee under doping, medical anti-doping, by renowned Nigerians who have done so well. And we believe Nigeria will step up, and we're also taking some proactive steps in and out of competition to test our athletes in line with the best practice.
The Federation says it's paying close attention to the list of drugs not tolerated by the international body. Any athlete found guilty of doping would be penalized. No less than 15 athletes have tested positive to doping in Nigeria. At various levels, they risk sanctions as severe as a total ban from competing in any competition.
Yes, of course, doping has become a big-time issue now in the global world of sport, especially in athletics. And from that report there in Nigeria, we certainly bring this news bulletin to an end. But for more on these stories and others, you can also log on our website on africa.tv. Once again, I am Amadou Kante, and many thanks for the pleasure of your company. Bye for now.